Alright, so today we got our Centramatic wheel balancers for the EarthRoamer, and they come in pairs, so these are two sets to cover both the front axle and the rear axle. These are both 400 422s. Not sure whether you can see it there or not. Yeah, sort of. Anyway, 400 422. That's the part number that you need to cover both axles. So we're going to go ahead and unpack these and get ready to install them. There you can see the two boxes and the two pairs of them. For some reason I expected them to be heavier than they are, but they're really not very heavy at all. Aluminum, super lightweight. So that's what they look like. They've got, looks like some universal, or maybe not universal, but hub stud bolt patterns that probably line up with several different types of studs, so they don't have to keep making different ones specific to every hub. So that's what they look like, front and back. And I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I can hear it and feel it. The small beads that do the balancing magic in these are rolling around this outer donut. Alright, so we'll get these mounted up. Alright, so we're going to get our impact wrench set up so we can make quick work of these wheels. Got air fitting on the front and the back of these EarthRoamers. Alright, so we've got a regulator on and set to 100 psi. Compressor runs to a little over that. I think it's actually set to 175 now, so we want to make sure and regulate that down so we don't damage our impact tool. Alright, I think we're ready to go. Alright, so we use our floor jack here to get this wheel off the ground. The key with these 41-inch wheels on the EarthRoamers is not to lift the wheel too far off the ground, because it makes it more difficult to get it back on. So you just want enough clearance to where you can just spin the tire, and that's good enough. Get these spacer plate nuts off. I left these nuts part way on because I realized I've got a little bit of paint buildup on here, and it made it a really tight fit on this 13/16 socket. So anyway, makes it easier to get them out of the socket if I leave them on here. There we go. Alright, so it makes it a lot easier to get a pry bar and hook that up underneath these lugs, lift up a little bit, and it makes it, as I drop it, makes it easier, much easier to get these big wheels off of here. There we go. Alright, so we'll check our brakes while we're in here. Whew. Looking a little on the thin side. Gonna have to replace those pretty soon. Alright, so the way these go on, right like that. Hopefully. Well, I think we're going to have to change the mounting strategy a bit for these. The issue is that this circle right here that is supposed to locate on the hub is a little bit small, or this is a little bit big, and I think what we're going to have to do in order to get it to go on there nicely without damaging anything, it's a very close fit, but I can't quite get it on there. So what I think I want to do is I'll remove the spacer, offset spacer on the wheel itself, put the Centramatic balancer on like this and get it all nice and flush and located here, then put the spacer on and nut them, and then just bring these down nice and slowly all the way around so that essentially it creates a press fit of this onto this hub. Getting it off might be a challenge, but if I try to do it with the spacer on the wheel itself, it's going to be difficult to wrangle the wheel up on there and get it to come in nice and flush. So I think using the spacer by itself, I can put it up there just so, get all the nuts tightened up just so, and press it onto here. So I think what I'm going to do on the other wheel is go ahead and remove the wheel using this mid bolt circle first. That'll leave the spacer on the hub, and then go ahead and pull the spacer off, use it to mount the Centramatic balancer, and then remount the wheel back on. I think in order to get a good result and make sure that we press those balancers on correctly, this is the way we need to do it. But since I've already removed this wheel, I'm going to go ahead and take the spacer out from the middle here. Alright, so I'm going to use the impact tool to go ahead and remove these plastic caps. It works fine to loosen them, you just don't want to use them to tighten them, obviously. And I put it on the lower power impact. Alright, so we got all our caps off. Throw them in a bucket here so we don't lose them. Now we'll get these off. Crank up the power a bit. Okay, so we have all of our lug nuts off. I'll just pull the spacer out the back. So that's what the spacer looks like. And we'll use that to press on our wheel balancer. Alright, so we're going to put this on here loosely. We're just kind of setting on the outer edge of this, and then take our offset plate, spacer plate, and press it up against there, and then get our nuts. Back around the outside and see how easily we can get this to go on. Alright, so we'll start. Got a socket. I'm not going to use any impact tool or any big guns here. I'm just going to gently tighten this down and see if I can get it just to start pressing onto here without too much binding. It looks like it's starting to go. So if yours ends up the same way, I would highly recommend doing this process slowly and carefully to get it on without damaging anything. And what I'm really looking at, there's a slight bevel on this hub assembly here. There's there's a flat, and then there's a very slight bevel on it. So I'm trying to get this to get off of that bevel all the way around until it's on the same radius, and then we'll just move it into the back side until it seats there. But getting it started on this flat surface all the way around evenly is probably the most critical part. All right, this is looking pretty good now. It's starting to seat itself on the flat part. We don't have it cockeyed at all. And it's starting just to press nicely down on the back side of these flats, which is what we wanted. What I'm noticing is I get a little bit of pressure on each one of these, a little bit of compression on each one of these studs, and then they all just sort of gradually loosen up as it puts compression on this ring, and this ring just sort of slowly seats itself over the hub. I think I remember somebody posting that the shop that they took their wheels to get these mounted at first thought that they didn't fit, and I think this is why. And eventually I think they probably figured out that they had to do this in order to get them on because of the tight fit. But I'll tell you what, if I were you and I were getting these things fitted and I had the choice of doing it carefully and slow myself at home, like I'm doing here, versus taking it into a shop where time is money, and they're going to throw that thing on there and they're going to try to get each one of these on there as quickly as they can, because they've probably given you an estimate on how much money it's going to cost to get them mounted. And I would not want a bunch of guys running around with impact tools and in a hurry mounting these things. You'd be much better off taking the time and mounting them yourself, in my opinion. Because this is working out really nicely, and they're going to be a nice tight fit, precision fit, which is what you want. Anything that's mounted on a wheel, you don't want anything eccentric. Don't be in a hurry. Plus, all this stuff's fun, right? Don't you all like wrenching on your EarthRoamer? I kind of do. So I've got it started on the flats on all of these all the way around. Now I'm going to kind of just work through my star pattern here and keep moving it until I get it all nice and flush. Alright, so now that we've got these down all the way and just lightly torqued evenly all the way around, looks like our plate came down on there pretty nicely. We're going to snug these up. First I'm going to go around and snug them up on low impact, and then we'll switch it to high and finish them off, and then we'll torque them down later. Okay, so now let's refit the wheel back on here. Nuts on there to hold it in place. Alright, so last step is to get all of our lug nuts torqued down here to the proper setting. So we're going to go to 165 on all the lugs, and then we'll move on to the next wheel. What I like to do is to make sure I didn't miss any in my star pattern, I just hit each one sequentially and make sure that it's at the right torque. Alright, so now we've done the inner bolt circle for the offset plate, and now we need to do the outer bolt circle, or the middle bolt circle that mounts the wheel to the offset plate, and we'll torque those down to 165 as well. And now we'll check all of them in sequence again. As you can tell, this is a very long process. Now we get all of our caps, black plastic caps, and thread all those on. Obviously, these black caps, and then I always take this and just give them a little manual tightening. Alright, there, we're done with one. On to the next. Alright, we're on to the rear wheels now. And pretty much the same routine, but I think it'll be slightly different. We'll see. You just kind of walk it off. Then you get it off the end there. Get rid of this bad boy for now. Raw. Oh, that paint making my life difficult. Should just left it rust color. As most of the owners probably know, if you're watching this, you already know that all of these offset spacers are stamped, and they'll say right on them that this is rear. Right here it says stamped rear, so there's never any problem with getting them mixed up with the front, unless of course you're a tire shop that's never done it before, and they got mine mixed up before I started doing all on my own. Alright, so take this off. Oh, well, so this looks different. Maybe these rear ones will be a little easier because they don't have those tabs that the front locking hubs have. Maybe this is going to be easy. That would be great. We'll put our wheel back on there. Now we'll come back through like we did on the front, and you can hear it thumping. That's because there's some slop. It's not fully seated up against the hub, but this hub-centric wheel, you need to make sure that it's not cockeyed on there, because once you put the weight of the vehicle, if you tighten everything down, you put the weight of the vehicle on there, then it's going to settle, and your wheel is going to be loose. So it's very important. I just sort of do this, especially since I can't rotate the hub. See how those are loosening or tightening up? So you just take and work that wheel a little bit back up and down until you hear that rattle go away, and that'll snug that down. Torque them down to 165. Look at these. Got my jack stand out. Always have a jack stand just in case. You may have been wondering why I didn't use the floor jack like I did on the front axle. Well, that's because the EarthRoamers are too heavy. So, my floor jack only goes up to 3 tons. So, I use this air assist jack, which is a 20-ton jack, which has no problem whatsoever getting the rear axle up. So, on the rear axle it carries 12,000 pounds, so 6,000 on a side. So just a little too much for the floor jack. And there we go. That's how you do your wheel balancers.